I don't think we have many here that an angel announced they are coming. We thank God if we have any. For some of us, we are told you came by mistake. But thank God we are here. Yeah, thank God we are here. And so this is not one that is coming to try ministry. This is not one that is coming to try here and there. This one that is coming with the clear prescription, is coming by the volume of the books. He actually knows what is contained in his book of life. But then, Brother Samson, for some reason, lacked a mentor or refused to be mentored. And so he did that which pleased his heart. He did that which pleased his heart. And I pray as we enter the year 2025, you will resonate with your heart to be mentored. Please sit your heart down. Please sit your heart down and speak, have a conversation with your heart. Be comfortable being taught. Be comfortable when you are told no. It's not every time you are told yes. And when you are happy every time you are told yes, that tells you you are rebellious. When you are not comfortable with no, when no comes, you feel something rise from your stomach, that tells you are dealing with the spirit of rebellion. You know, I always tell you this basic stuff. This basic stuff. That you don't need a prophet to prophesy to yourself. You can tell where your weakness is. Praise the name of the Lord. When Brother Samson tells the parents that he has seen one that he wants to marry, the parents counseled him. They said, what is it that you have seen among the daughters of the Philistines? Why is it that you cannot go one from the covenant and the people? What did he say? He says, she pleases my heart. She pleases my heart. And that is what brings down to what? That is what brings. That is the road. The road of having your way. The road of him having his way is what will take us to where we are going right now. Praise the name of the Lord. Please put your resolution, the New Year resolution aside. Keep them aside. We will handle that later. But for now, I would like us to deal with the conditions of our heart. Particularly on this area of intentionally choosing to be mentored. You can only teach one that comes to class. You can only teach the one that wants to be taught. And if there is a circle of people that cannot be taught, are people that are in church. People in church are rebellious. Believe you me. Believe you me. There are people you cannot easily access their hearts. They'll sit and look at you. And you think you are together. And they are sizing you. And they are wondering what is wrong with this woman. What is wrong with this man? What is it? Why is he wasting our time? And they are smiling. And their heart, they are like, what's wrong with you? That's a church for you. But then I know what you're asking. Then why are they in church? Let me answer that. Because church is a hospital. Because church is a what? It's a hospital. And only sick people go to the hospital. So church is a combination. Everyone is here as a patient. Only that we are treating different diseases. Yeah. Church is a hospital. Church is a hospital. So some are dealing with attitude issues. Others are dealing with different issues. Brother Samson was dealing with the rebellion. Brother Samson was dealing with the rebellion. So please, speak to your heart and say, my heart, in the year 2025, you will be taught. I know you don't like being taught. There are people who always like you teaching, but they never taught. Now, news to you. Any teacher that you see teaching once went to school. It's only the Christian circles where they want to teach without going to. Anybody great you see in this life sat under somebody at a particular time. Anybody you see that is doing something substantial in this life, please choose to sit under somebody. Do not be deceived by people clapping for you, calling you man of God, woman of God, calling you these nasty names. Do not be deceived. Do not allow your heart to swell to a place where you are so unteachable. It will lead you the path that we are going. Let's go back. The scripture says, verse 4. Sometime later, Brother Samson has not learned a lesson. He goes ahead, He falls in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek. Brother Samson, what is the matter? What are you doing in the valley? Put your love where your affection is. Your affection should be on the things above. Remember, Brother Samson, you came from above. So your love should be on the things above. What are you doing on the valley? His affections, his appetites were always dislocated. In other words, his appetites, everything around Brother Samson was against God. He always sided with the enemies of God. But then, any time that we choose to side with the enemies of God, their judgment becomes our judgment. Before we talk about the New Year resolution, and before we begin to speak scripture and say, if God be for us, who can be against us? Are you on the side of God? Are you? Which side are you? Which side are you? Because some of these curses we release to the enemies of God, they fall on us. Because we are in their camp. A number of times we find ourselves in their camp and we are busy sending fire to them. And the fire lands in our bedroom. Please let us align ourselves well. Before we declare war, make sure you stand aright. So that you may not use your sword to cut your head. So that you may not use your sword. You know, everybody wants these prayer points of fire, fire, fire. I kill them, I scatter them. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not sin. But you are killing and scattering standing where? You could be digging the rock on which you are standing and you'll sink with them. Praise the name of the Lord. Brother Samson dislocated himself from the place of grace. He chose to go down the valley. There were so many women of the covenant, but he chose to go to the valley ones. What does the scripture say in verse 5? Says the rulers of Philistines went, when he fell in love with the woman whose name was Delilah. I don't want to read all that story. The woman lures him, and of course herself, she's at the place of comfort. She belongs to the valley. It is Samson that is dislocated. The woman is at her comfort, because after all, she is not covenanted. And so she is operating in her full strength. The seduction, the language she is using is the language of her nativity, is her native language. That's how they talk in the valley. So the one that should be correcting themselves is Samson. Praise the name of the Lord. And this woman begins to lure him. And this woman begins to lure him. To my surprise, she does not do an execution attempt once. She did not do it twice. She did not do it thrice. Yet Brother Samson refused to learn a lesson. When she would say, tell me the secret, then he talks about tie me with the ropes. She calls for Philistines. It was not a joke. Truly, Philistines came. He did not learn anything. He did not learn anything. Is he bewitched? He didn't learn anything. Rebellion is costly. Rebellion can fuel you on the wrong direction. Brethren, speed is not helpful unless it is on the right direction. So don't be shocked by brother so and so is making a lot of progress. Very fast he's buying a car. Very fast he's doing this. Let us also check the direction. It's very important. The woman makes another attempt. Says if you do what? Pastor Makori, let's go to the second attempt. Let me ask you. What is this that even after such an attempt, he cannot advise himself? What is this? Was he so desperate? What is it that tied him there? Spirit of rebellion. Spirit of rebellion. Brethren, rebellion will fight you before it fights your pastor. Rebellion will withstand you. And that is a concrete case that the enemy will bring before God, and it will be a strong case against you. Rebellion does not necessarily need to be physical first. It starts from the heart. It starts from the heart. It starts from the heart. That thing you feel when you are corrected. Do you know that thing you feel when you are corrected? That thing you feel when you always want to have your way and you are told no, and you are like, this is church, but when your boss tells you no, you feel nothing. When your boss insults you, tomorrow you come to work. We thank him for the insult. But when pastor tries to raise his voice, you change church. It's a trap. Brethren, is a trap. It's a trap to drive you away from the source of your life. It's a trap to drive you away from the place of elevation. It's a trap towards the valley of Sorek. In the valley of Sorek, you will not come out whole. You will be picked dead. Because it's on the downfall. Praise the name of the Lord. Brethren, before we start the year, in January, let us not deal with the resolutions of the year. We will deal with the condition of our hearts. Forget about the resolutions. When we stand aright, these things can be done within a day. God is God. God is not you. But then a number of times our hearts betray us. Our hearts speak against us. Our hearts fight us. The scripture says, like I said, I'll be jumping. Now Delilah has succeeded. It says in verse 18, kindly read us, Pastor Makori. Listen. After all the attempts, he refused to learn a lesson. After he went to Gaza, now he's gone to the valley of Sorek. He've not learned anything. I don't know what thing that we've been doing even in the secret, because we are addressing the secret linen now. I don't know what it is because you know it. Even myself, I have it. We say it is a hospital. All of us are treating different diseases. And these things have led us to where we are standing, and I know you know it. When you stood well with God, I know you knew how things were. When now you are no longer, I know you also know. I know you also know. The scripture says she succeeded in subduing him. She succeeded in seducing him. Then for real, once more, she calls the lords of the Philistines. They come and cut the locks. And after cutting the locks, she was able to subdue him. The scripture says, for his strength, and left him. Brethren, before we arrive at the place of being shamed, before we arrive at the place of being unclothed by the enemy, before we arrive at the place of public reproach by the enemy, why can't we advise ourselves and turn our way from the valley upwards? We belong upwards. We don't belong to the valley. We belong upwards. Our place is on the mountain. Our place is not in the valley. Our place is in the heights, in the place of prayer and meditation. Our place is vertical acceleration. Our place is not downwards. Praise the name of the Lord. The scripture says, and when Delilah, verse 20, And she called Samson, and Philistines, times are upon you. He woke up from his sleep and he thought, look at that deception. I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Must we wait until we arrive at that place? The fact that the pastor has not known what you did. Have you not known that we have moved from the space where pastors are pushing and patrolling all over the place? No. Pastors are also looking for heaven. So they are also busy seeking God. So do not expect them to come door to door looking what you are doing and who you are talking to. No, it's not. We are not in that space anymore. Praise the name of the Lord. So the fact that the pastor does not know what you did does not mean it's an okay for you to continue doing it. We no longer hear the parents of Samson speaking over that matter again. From the time he said, the woman pleases me, they left it. From the time he said, this woman pleases me well, the parents kept quiet. The next time we see Samson dead. Have you not known that decisions have consequences? Or do you think it's a slogan? It's not a slogan. It's reality. Both in the physical and in the spiritual. Choices have consequences. And it's time we begin to take personal responsibility of spiritual growth. Begin to take personal responsibility of our spiritual growth. It has nothing to do with the pastor. In fact, I would like us to grow to a place where, with or without a pastor, you can still do what you should do. Because number one, your allegiance is to God, then to pastor. Your allegiance is to God. If 100 or 1,000 people, if 200 people were like that in this congregation, pastor will have very little job to do. He will come here and fire will come down. But then everybody is on their direction. There is the one that is treating with rebellion, and the one that is treating rebellion has refused to take medication. There is another one that is treating idolatry, and that one you cannot even touch. He is high and mighty, so cannot even take injection. So we have a combination of people that have refused the medication. So you can imagine, now the pastor is the doctor. What do you want him to do? What do you want him to do? He can only do what he can do. The rest, he will not allow himself to lose heaven like Moses. He will not allow the congregation to make him lose destiny. Because after all, let me tell you, brethren, if there are pastors that will never see heaven, it's because of the people. It's not because of themselves. It's because of the people. Because there are those that refuse the medication. The only thing they do is to count years in church. They refuse to change. How will you be healed if you don't take medicine? How will you be healed? And they want to tell the pastor the way they saw him 20 years ago with only one coat. And that is the only thing they keep saying. Praise the name of the Lord. The scripture says that he thought that he will go out, shake himself, and the strength will come upon him again. Little did he know that the grace facility had been lifted. Grace is given and grace can be taken. Grace is given and grace can be taken. At that point, this brother had started another journey of affliction. I know you know where you started with God. I know you do. The year 2025, because before we begin to say, God, do this for me, God, do that for me, God, do this for me, God, do that for me. Number one, we are taking our journey back to the mountain. Number one, we are taking our journey back to the mountain. Brethren, God will always look for you where he placed you. When he went to the Garden of Eden, he asked them, where are you? In other words, there is a spot where he had left them. He did not go looking for them, no. It is for you to look for, it is for you to come back where I placed you. Had God gone to look for them, he would have endorsed error. God placed them in a certain position in the Garden of Eden. That is where he stood and asked, where are you? In other words, where I placed you, I can no longer see you. God placed you on the high places. Have you not read the scripture that you are seated with Christ? Where? In the heavenly places. Is that it? In the place of victory. in the place of success. That is where you are seated with him. So what are you doing in the valley? He's still calling. Where are you? It is not God to come for you down there. He did not place you there. It is you to go back where he kept you because you know it. You know the way. If you knew the way out of the mountain, you also know the way back there. So he's calling us back to the right alignment. In the year 2025, before we start casting demons, before we start subduing kingdoms, number one, we are taking our walk back to the place of origin, the place of the mountain. Now from there, we can call fire down and it will come. Have you not read the story of Elijah? It is from the mountain that he commands the fire to come down. Do you know why on the mountain? Because he is in the place where he's supposed to be. So when you sit at the place of your location, that is where your throne is. So even a whisper sounds like thunder. Because you're in the rightful place. You're in the rightful place. Power is not in shouting. Power is sitting where you are supposed to be sitting. Even when you whisper, it goes out like low. Praise the name of the Lord. When they come to Elijah and they say, King is saying you come down. Did he come down? He knew they are luring him to the place of defeat. He refused to come down. Praise the name of the Lord. And why are you allowing yourself to be lured down? Why? Just because of a job? Just because they are pressuring you to get married? That's why you are now going to clap? Yeah? Because they are saying, it's just good. It's just good. As long as he's not born again, he's not good. Angekuwa good, angekuwa ameokoka. Bwana Yesu asifiwe sana. The scripture says in verse 21, then the Philistines seized him. Look at what can happen to once a mighty man. How mighty men can fall. How mighty men, and believe you me, mighty men can fall. Mighty men can fall. He says, then the Philistines seized him. I would like somebody with a different version to do verse 21. Yes. Then the Philistines took him and put out his eyes. Put him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze feathers, and he became a rider in the bush. Before you go there, number one, the scripture says when they seized him, they dealt with his vision. They dealt with his vision. Have you not read the scripture that where there is no vision, people perish? When the enemy succeeds in subduing you, number one, he will deal with your vision. Vision that is God-given, because each and every one of us here has something God gave them to do. Not just to give birth and increase. That is not just it. Not just to do business and make money. Thank God for that, and we will do a lot of that. Not just to do. Each and every one of us has something that God gave us to do. The enemy has nothing to do with your physical appearance. Have you not read the scripture that the flesh profits nothing? In other words, this flesh has been put on weighing machine, and it was wanting. And the scripture says it profits nothing. It is the spirit that gives life.